back to Superhuman Customs. I'm your host, Stephen Human, and we are customizing action figures. It's pretty much all we do. And today, we are starting down, I guess we could say we're diving down a rabbit hole with this figure. So, not long ago, on one of the customization pages that I'm a member of on Facebook, one of the guys had a photo of the Justice Lords that he did. Now, this is not something I was ever interested, but his were so cool. And so when I found this Batman, this is the Batman he used, this is like the perfect Batman for any kind of like realistic interpretation of the animated Batman, just the face and the ears, the whole thing. But how the symbol here is attached to the cape, this is the perfect Batman to use for a Justice Lord Batman. And that is what we are gonna do. I found this guy for like 15 bucks and it was the day after I saw that and was kind of inspired. So I was like, oh, fate is telling us what to do. So we are doing Justice Lord Batman, and what that means is we're gonna have to do a Justice Lord Superman and a Justice Lord Wonder Woman and blah, 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 blah. We're gonna end up doing all of them. So as we jump down the rabbit hole, come with me and let's do Justice Lord Batman. First things first, his body is black. So that's the thing about Justice Lord Superman, is that it's kind of the opposite. His cowl and stuff is gray and his body is black. So we're gonna hit the body first and just go through and start adding the black. This is a good thing to start with because it goes pretty fast and it's such a big part of the figure that you feel very accomplished once you're done. Like you can look and go, oh wow, this is actually looking really great. So I could take him all the way apart and spray paint him, but I really love how well these Vallejo paints go on. So I'm just gonna use black Vallejo and just hit all of the little areas here. And it goes on so thin that it's not gonna cause me problems once I'm, like with how things move, like with how the joints interact with each other. They'll still be able to bend and do all that stuff, where I found that sometimes with spray paint, that is not the case. So with this guy, that's how I'm gonna do it. You can do it however you want. You know, I just kind of do the things that I like to do. And if that's not how you wanna do it, then don't do it that way. You know, find a way that you like it. Just like I haven't gotten into airbrushes yet. My brother keeps pushing me to do so. But I really enjoy the hand painting aspect of this. So, you know, don't do something because you think, oh, well, that's what I should do, that's what everybody else does. Do what you want to do and have fun with it. Now, obviously, I tend to go really fast with the coverage stuff until I get to areas like this on the edges, and then I go nice and slow in order to get them right up there. And just as always, you want to get a little extra paint on the paintbrush and let the paint lead the brush so that the paint is what's touching everything and not the brush. I know I say that every time, but that is the key to getting these details looking really nice and not having a lot of slop. And then you don't have to paint things that you don't need to paint. You know, obviously this is all gonna be gray, it's gonna be a different color, so we are gonna paint it. But if I didn't want to, then if I go in nice and slow, then I'm able to get exactly the effect that I want right around these little details. All right, fascist Justice Lord Batman is looking pretty good so far. I've mixed some gray paint and now we're gonna go over the cape and the cowl. So I didn't have any gray, or at least I had some crappy craft paint gray, but that's not gonna serve very well on this softer plastic of the cape and cowl. So I didn't want to use it because it's going to get too flaky. It's going to chip too much. So I just mixed some Vallejo black and white. That's all, nice and simple. And I'm just going to go through and paint. And most of it, I've got a big brush because most of it is just coverage. And so I'm going to go through and get this guy grayed up. And this is a really great gray. I mean, I didn't try to make it perfect or anything. You guys know me. I just went through and, you know, started mixing until it was gray. And this is actually a really good gray color for this Batman. Now, I've seen some people who have changed out the arms and stuff on this figure to make him look more like the cartoon. I'm not going to do that, partially because I think these spikes and stuff are very Justice Lord-esque,
And so I am keeping them. I'm not switching it out. Same thing with the belt. The belt is very, utilitarian and crazy. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep it because it feels very bad guy Batman-y. And so I'm just going to go through and paint these things like everything else and keep them. I'm even going to silver up these spikes, I think, just to make them stand out a little bit more. Very Justice Lord Batman to have spikes all over. Now, when mixing paint, sometimes you're not going to make enough, which I did not. So I'm on the dregs right now. But what you want to do is, because you're going to have to make some more, you have to make some more for the cape and stuff. And getting it perfectly mixed is pretty much impossible. I mean, unless you're like measuring and doing all that stuff, which obviously I'm not doing. So what you want to do then is you just want to make sure that all the stuff that's touching is the same color. So you want to make sure before you run out that you hit all of the areas that are legitimately touching each other. So like this whole front end. If I went through in here with the smaller brush and I was using a different color, a slightly different color gray, it would really stand out. Whereas if I use a slightly different color gray for the cape back here, it's not going to make any difference. No one's ever going to notice because it's close enough that you're good. So just make sure that you're paying attention when you're running out of paint to make sure that all of this stuff is using the exact same shade so that there is no question. And I'll point out here that on the cowl in the cartoon, he's got black right here under his eyes. It's part of the character. And so I'm just leaving that in that dark blue and then going through and just a little bit. It's very subtle, but it'll keep that, accurate look. Finishing touches, we're going to get the symbol here in silver. And what we need to do is put it on nice and thin, and we need to make sure to move in the same direction. So I'm going to move down kind of to the side here across the entire thing so that we're able to put a smooth coat on and make it so that it's not, that the paint doesn't clump up and that it looks fairly natural. We're going to have to do several coats on this one just because going over the black. Oop, I got a little bit on the gray there. I can fix that. Oh, maybe we can't because I don't have any more gray. So I need to wipe that off. There we go. Yeah, make sure to catch those. I remember I had to make the gray. Oof. Let me get another paintbrush here. This one's a little bit wet. That should get it. There we go. So you're running into stuff like that. Another wet paintbrush can save you, like it just did me. All right, now back to it. There we go. And go back over, being sure not to get on the gray because we don't have any more mixed. And just keep that same direction, and it'll give it a metal look, which will be nice. And as it dries, you put on another coat. I'm also going to hit some of these details here. First of all, I'm going to paint over the bat sign because the Justice Lord Batman has a little bit of a silver circle there in the middle of his belt. This will just help to, match that a little bit. And then I'm going to go through and hit some of these buckles, just like we usually do, just to make it so that they look a little bit more detailed and that it adds more life to the overall figure. I'm also going to paint these little knives that he's got here silver. I think it's just going to make it look better, make things match a little bit more. And I'll do the same thing to some of these other details here that are kind of this off brown, kind of dirty gold. And since we're leaving these spikes on, I'm going to highlight them. They're going to be silver too, because this is a bad guy Batman, and so we're going to make sure that people know that he's a bad guy Batman. He's got spikes all over. And that was the thing that I didn't like about this sculpt when it first came out, this McFarlane-designed Batman sculpt, is that it was just too, brutal for an effective Batman, in my opinion. But for a Justice Lord Batman, it is perfect. One thing I decided to do is paint here in these areas black because he does have kind of the boots divided up. And so if I just do in here in black, it'll add some contrast, first of all, which it's sorely lacking at this point with the grays. And it'll make it a little bit more accurate. So that's a fun little addition there.
Justice Lord Batman, just that simple. This guy looks pretty cool. Again, I could have made him a little bit more screen accurate by adding some, putting on different arms and stuff, but I really love the spikes for this Justice Lord Batman. He's a bad guy, he looks like a bad guy, and it's a simple repaint that doesn't really take that long. So get out there and do it. Now, obviously, if you're like me, this is just the tip of the iceberg because we got to do Superman and Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl and Green Lantern and all that stuff. So this is going to be a longer term project as I get those figures. And you guys will be with me the entire time, and we'll see as this team forms over the next 6 months or so. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So subscribe. You're going to be excited about this. I'm Stephen Human with Superhuman Customs, and I will see you next week.